Hello everyone. I have finally found a worthy replacement for the F91W from Casio, and it is also a Casio, and we're going to talk about that today. Sometime about a year or two ago, I don't really remember when, I made a video lamenting the fact that I loved the Casio F91W. Terrific watch, extremely popular, very durable, classic design, but it's just too tiny for my 7+ inch wrists. It looks like a toy, which I don't really mind too much, but it's also somewhat difficult for me to read because I'm not getting any younger, and the display, as you can see, is rather smallish, as is the entire watch, but I love the design. So in that video, I found a replacement, or what I thought was a worthy replacement for the F91W, and it was a homage, perhaps pronounced knockoff, from a Chinese company called Skmei or Skmei, and it's essentially an F91W ballooned to larger proportions, and they kept the same design elements, same functions, the same color scheme, and just got rid of the Casio, and now it says in big bubbly letters Skmei, or however one pronounces that. And this has been my daily wear, go-to watch almost every day since. And as you can see, it does sit better on the wrist. It's a more appropriately sized watch for me, and the readout, the display is much larger and easier for me to read. And as a bonus, the light is better. You're not going to be able to see it in this daylight, but much better backlight than the poor, underpowered Casio F91 has. But some discerning and well-meaning folks in that video said, why would you buy a knockoff when Casio has a larger version of the F91 already under the Casio name? And that's the W217H from Casio. Same kind of watch, blown up bigger, easier for you to read, same functions. Why not use that? And in that video, my complaint was that the Skmei looks a lot more like the Casio F91W than the Casio W217H looks like the Casio F91W. In other words, the knockoff is a better replacement than the one made by Casio. And it has to do with the proportions of the display. There's something off about the proportions here on the Casio W217H. They don't mimic the F91W the way that the Skmei does. And I just like, it's a pleasing display. The proportions are just right. This mimics it better than this does, even though this is a knockoff and this is a genuine Casio. So this is a better watch in terms of reliability, in terms of accuracy, and it's from a company that we all know and trust. This is not, but it's, for me, has been a better watch because I just like the look of it more. Now, Casio sometime in the last year has released another watch, which I think is a worthy successor to the F91W, even though it doesn't adhere closely to the same design elements. It still has the Casio pleasing proportions and design in a way that its cousin, the W217H, does not, for some reason. And we'll talk about that. W217H on the left, the newish W215H. So they're clearly related. They're clearly cousins. And there's a lot that's similar between the two. And we'll kind of compare that. But to me, this now might be the most perfect watch even though it has a few negatives that we'll talk about. One of them is staring you right in the face. Plus, it's hard to lay this thing flat because of the odd design, the strange design. Let's talk about that first, the strap. All three of these, Casio and Skmei, and most Casios of this price range and most Skmeis of this type all have a very similar strap. Matte black, resin or plastic, flexible, cheap, but does its job, is durable. Don't have any problem with it. I think it accentuates the look of these watches very nicely. No problem with that. The new W215H, as you can see, has this glossy black strap, and it does come in other kind of fancy colors, bright, somewhat obnoxious if you're a person like me of a certain age, but bright colors it comes in as well. I chose the black, but it's so glossy. It's a fingerprint magnet. Brand new watch, but you can see there's fingerprints and grease all over it already from my grubby fingers. The underside is still the matte black that you are used to on Casio watches, but it has this glossiness on the outside. The case of the watch itself is more shiny and glossy than I'm used to seeing on Casios, like this matte black W217H, its cousin, very matte black throughout, very glossy throughout on this. Still, that aside, the aesthetics of it are just pleasing to me in a way that I find difficult to put into words. If we compare it with the Skmei that I've been wearing every day, and compare both of those with the F91W, which one looks more like the F91W? Well, the Skmei still looks more like it to me, but the Casio looks more like a Casio and is more attractive to me than the Skmei, oddly. If we compare the new Casio W215H with the Casio W217H on the left, the new Casio has a case that is almost identical in size. It's a little bit wider because of you can see these raised ridges to protect, presumably to protect the pushers, maybe the buttons. Not certain if that's the reason or if it's just for appearance, but those do not appear on the 217H, only on the 215H. Other than that, the cases are the same size. However, the design of this case makes it look like the ends of the case are part of the strap in a way that is less successfully done on the 217H. This, where my thumb is pressing, is part of the case. The strap starts here. So it gives the appearance of a shorter case, even though they're pretty much identical in height. 43 millimeters tall. And as far as width, the 217 on the left here is 39 millimeters wide, while this one is 40. So 1 millimeter difference in the width. The display on these is exactly the same size, which surprised me because something about the layout here makes this look more closely proportional to the F91W than this. And it may be just the large amount of black open space on either side that on this one has words in it. It may be that the corners are cut differently, so that gives the appearance of being wider than it actually is. I'm not certain, but just aesthetically it appears more rectangular, oriented in this direction, the horizontal, versus this, which appears more square or even stretched in the vertical. It's a trick of the eye, trick of the design, but There you have it. That just appeals to me more. Functions exactly the same on both, and the same functions as you get in the F91W. Alarm, stopwatch, time set. That's it. That's what you get. 3 buttons. I don't need anything else. That's really all I need. The only thing that possibly I might want is a dual time to keep coordinated universal time for radio listening, but I have other watches to do that, so not a deal breaker. The F91W doesn't have that, nor does the Skmei. So, worthy successor, worthy replacement for those of us who have larger wrists. You don't have to go with a no-name brand Skmei. You can do the W217H, as a lot of people recommended. It's a fine watch. I just don't care as much for the appearance of it. Or the new W215H. To me, a much more attractive watch, even though it's a little shinier than I would prefer. A little bit more look at me, look at me. To me, it's just a more handsome watch than the 217H, personally. Your mileage may vary. They're about the same price too, by the way. And that price is extremely reasonable. Sub $30, around $20. If you're at all curious about the exact model of Casio I have here, there's the colorway for the 215H. Thanks for watching this new Casio watch review. Hope to see you here again next time.